One, two, three.
It's interesting because normally you count down, don't you? Three, two, one, clap.
Yeah. I changed it up this.
Strange that you would mix that up this late in the game.
Yeah,
4 years
just
in.
trying to keep you guessing, obviously.
4 years on.
Marco,
Yours?
I've read three maritime history books this month. And you were dangerously close to having to sit through a cold open on shipwrecks on the Columbia River Bar, which,
Oh, it doesn't feel like it would be the first time I
yeah,
could deal
listen,
with that.
it may come around again. I'm not promising
Okay,
that's
okay, okay.
not going to ever happen, but this week I am going to spare you from all of the many things that I learned in my maritime history books because I've been on a
Uh-huh.
binge. I've been on a binge. But it's also wildfire season in North America. A
Ooh,
thing I very much don't miss about living in Southern California. Over the years, I've had countless occasions on which I have walked somewhere, like to school or whatever, and come home with a layer of ash over my hair.
is that something that is kind of on the rise? Is it increasing in
Oh, yes, of
duration
course.
or
Yes,
intensity or scale?
very much so. All of the above.
Bigger and bigger and bigger, yeah.
All of the above. Every single
Uh,
thing you just said there.
good, 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 good.
Absolutely. Um, I once drove through a wall of fire when a flaming tree suddenly caught a gust of wind
Very
and swung
metal.
across the freeway. Yeah,
What were you
it's like,
listening to? What was on
uh,
stereo, please?
uh, probably Bayside. It's
All right, fair
usually
enough.
Bayside, realistically.
Okay.
Nearly every year, there'd be at least one day where a
Were
smoke,
you
where
loved up with Jesus when that happened? Did you think it was the
no,
hand of God itself that had shunted you through the flames?
there is no point in my life that I would have thought that anyway. I was
Okay,
not that kind of evangelical. as
okay.
a keep it pretty logical. God is
Christ
not paying that
itself
close attention kind of thing.
had plans for you, girl.
Yeah, no, not so much. um but yeah, nearly every year there'd be at least one day where smoke filled the sky and covered the sun, and everyone anxiously Googled to make sure the fire was in the hills somewhere and not near any of our
Mm.
houses. Last year, there was such a horrendous wildfire in Canada. A good chunk of the US was covered in yellow smoke for days. I was in Stamford, Connecticut at the time, and it was apocalyptic looking. All of my pictures from that are just yellow. It's pretty
Yellow
crazy.
smoke, you say? Why is
Yeah.
that?
I don't I'm not a smoke scientist, Mark.
Sulfur? Is it sulfurous? Is it
No, so many
toxic?
toxins. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
deeply toxic air. Like I was wearing a mask the whole time, like outside everywhere to try to not breathe it.
Sure.
And if you took it off, it was just like, you
Ah,
just
hacking.
it's like just being, if you held your face over a barbecue grill, it was terrible. Um,
Yikes.
not too long ago, just north of where I spent my teenage years in Northern California, there was a fire that razed a huge portion of the city of Santa Rosa. And one of my high school besties' house was on the one street in an entire housing development that didn't burn down. Everything else burned down around it except their little strip. And last year on Lahaina in Maui was destroyed by a deadly fire after authorities chose not to alert residents to the unfolding disaster in time. There are documentaries on the Paradise Fire and fires in Portugal, which wiped entire towns off the map and killed tons of people. And one of these days, I will get around to telling you the story of the Great Hinckley Fire of 1894, which is among the most horrifying things I've ever read in my life. And I do this show.
Just interesting little piece of synchronicity earlier on this
Hmm.
week. I had cause to visit Leicester, a little part of Leicester, a little small town outside of Leicester called Hinckley. So
Hey, was it
just
ever on fire?
a little catch there. No, it is the home of one of the UK's biggest power stations. So
Oh,
I
okay.
don't think it has ever caught fire, but I mean,
Hopefully it's
got the
never caught fire.
potentially it could. I don't see why it couldn't, you know?
There are no rules. It's possible.
No, yeah, feasible.
um, well, good to know. And all of
Yeah.
that to say that fire is a huge part of the American experience. And one of the most famous examples of this is the Great Chicago Fire, a devastating conflagration that permeated the public consciousness to the point that there's a jaunty little scout song about it. I've sung it to you
Let's
before,
have
but
it.
would you like to hear it again, Mark?
Please. Yes, yes,
Now,
yes.
there's hand motions to this,
Okay.
okay? So Late last night when we were all in bed, Mrs. O'Leary hung a lantern in the shed, but when the cow
Uh-oh.
kicked, I'm kicking it, kicked it over, she
Moo.
winked her eye and said, "It's gonna be a hot time in the old town tonight. Fire, fire, fire."
Okay.
And as you sing this song, each time you sing it, you take out a word. So the next time I sing it, I go, "Late last night when we were all in,"
One of those.
and
Yeah, okay, cool.
I just do the thing, and
Yeah.
then each time you take out another one of them till all year. You got little
When are
blanks.
we talking here? Tell me when this was. 1930s, did you say?
I did not say that. No, this
No. Oh,
happened.
womp.
This happened in 1871.
All right, and you call it the Great
The Great
Chicago Fire,
Chicago
yes.
Fire. So, what did you glean
Yes.
from the little song that I told you there? Yeah, pick out any pieces.
Well, you got your Great Chicago Fire. We've got a Great Fire of London, and I'm very curious to see how they stack up.
Well, sure. So the
Uh,
song, "Late last night, we were all in bed. Mrs.
yep.
O'Leary hung
Some
a
old
lantern in the
bird hung a
shed.
lantern in the shed.
When the cow kicked it over, she
Moo.
winked her eye and said, "It's going to be a hot time in
Yep.
the old town tonight."
Now, is
So
that the song that Joker sings in Batman 1989 when he's got his lethal electric hand buzzer on
I
and
don't
he's
think so.
shocked the gang leader and he sings as the guy is burning to death and he sings there'll be a hot one in the old town tonight. Is that what he's singing, I
Oh.
wonder?
Yeah, I feel like it's probably, I don't know. I don't know. I will have to, it's
I
only
know that I
probably
know
been a
that
few
movie
months
ridiculously
since
well
yeah,
and of course and have read the novelization, so I
sure.
know that movie very
Yeah.
intimately.
It's probably
Nooks
only
and
been
crannies
like
of that
2 or
movie.
3 months since the last time I watched that, but I don't remember thinking,
Okay.
"Oh, he's referencing the Great Fire,"
Do
but
you happen
maybe.
to have any the tail of the tape of your particular Great Chicago Fire? Do you have any stats? Do you have any numbers?
You think I'm not going to tell you any of this stuff, Mark?
Well, of
Think I'm
course you
just
are,
going to.
but oh, good, of course, like you wouldn't. But I'm gonna come. I'm gonna come armed. I'm gonna get me some
Yeah,
stats
yeah,
about our
yeah.
Great Fire of London.
Sure. So, Mark, the
Yes.
city of Chicago went from a small frontier outpost to a bustling metropolis in a
Do you know,
very short period of time.
good friends of ours, the Booterols, I believe, are a Chicago family, born and bred.
Wait, are they?
Yes.
Is that so? Okay. I'm
Al
confused about the
is the
lore.
Chicago Union guy,
He's a
isn't he?
well, no. He,
No,
I believe he was a Pennsylvania Union man, a steel
but he'll
worker,
serve you up a
but he is,
mean deep dish.
yes, but he's mean deep dish and
Sorry, I
has a New York
digress. Go on.
accent. Yes, right. He's a he's been around, I guess, is what we're
That's
saying.
what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. The storied Buterol family. So bustling metropolis, in a short period of time, like I said, it was a small frontier outpost before that. According to Chicago Magazine, 1871 was just about 35 years out from that pioneer landscape, but had already become the commercial heart of the Midwest with a population of 300,000 people, largely German and Irish immigrants. So it literally went from a couple thousand people to 300,000 over the course of 3 decades. It had become the fifth
Well,
largest city in the United States.
well, do you know what? Uh, that is emblematic of just population boom in general, isn't it? Just within our lifetime, globally, we've gone from like 4 to 8 billion people.
Right, but that's birth rate, right? Like it starts to become exponential
Yeah.
after a while. That's not what we're talking about here. Those like 3,000 people living here didn't have, 100,000 babies or whatever. That's not how, or 200,000 babies.
You'd hope
That's not
not.
how Chicago got bigger. That was not it. It was, as the Atlantic explained, due in large part to the completion of transportation links such as the Illinois and Michigan Canal. And this allowed for industry to proliferate, including railroads, lumber yards, and stockyards. And the way that Chicago sprung up so fast was with wooden construction. It's
Okay.
not it's not that they didn't understand the message of the three little pigs, but they knew they were building their city from sticks, and that meant it was there for a good time and not a long time. But they weren't thinking of catastrophe. It was just that they were more concerned with its rapid growth
Does
than its
anyone
durability.
build thinking of catastrophe or I mean, should we?
Now we do, certainly. Um, definitely not at that point. I mean, I think now when it comes to constructions in most places, like obviously I lived in California for a long time,
Yeah.
um, and everything has been retrofitted. They've gone back and made it so that it won't fall down in an earthquake. And if they build anything, they have to make sure that an earthquake isn't going to knock it all
Yeah.
down and crush everybody.
Build
And
for catastrophe.
right. Like that is, I think, in a lot of places, especially like as we face climate change and stuff like that, that is something that
Well,
increasingly people are worried about.
yeah. Are people cottoning on to Joe Aggro number one? Are people trying
Yeah,
to
you're
are
never
people
safe.
realizing that you're not safe and trying to mitigate that
Right.
somehow? I
I
don't know.
remember even seeing like a few years ago someone who had built like a big dome somewhere in hurricane country that was supposed to be able to withstand like
Yeah,
bajillion mile per hour winds and all of that kind of stuff so that no matter what
yeah.
happens they're safe from the hurricanes.
Well, it's always worked out well, hasn't it? When people have elected to build giant kind of dome structures over populated areas,
Yeah,
it's never not gone well
it's not
in
like a
fiction or
not a dome over the area, just their own dome for them to live in.
oh, I see. Like okay, fine, yeah,
Yeah.
personal dome. All right, fine.
Not a
Sorry, I thought you meant like
biodome or anything like that.
a
No.
like Pauly Shore.
No. Yeah. No, no Polly Shore. Just a dome that they lived in to try to avoid this.
Okay.
So yeah, I think now we think more like that. Not to say that everyone does. They're still building houses on like cliffs and stuff in
Mm.
areas with tons of erosion and whatnot, and then they slide off all the time. But largely, I think we try not to build stuff so it'll burn down and whatnot.
I
But they
feel
were
it
much, oh,
important to announce that in a piece of programming which can only have been motivated by the death of Shelley Duvall, The Shining has just begun on TV.
I don't know where your head is right now,
They've
but
put The Shining on BBC Two. Good on you, lads.
good
Well
to
done.
know.
Well done, lads.
Anyways,
Mm,
so they're trying to build up Chicago really quickly, really cheaply, get the influx of people who are coming here for all of the industry that is booming, again, largely immigrants, have them all come in. And so they build everything out of wood. Even the pipes and the sidewalks were made of wood. Everything was wood. And they figured, of course, this isn't going to last forever, but
wooden
we'll
pipes,
cross that bridge when we come
like
to it. Yeah,
sewerage and
like that you're
drainage,
exactly all of the stuff, your
plumbing.
water, everything coming through wooden pipes.
Uh,
Just, wood is known for standing up to water. One of the things we
yeah,
always
yeah.
say about wood. That said, fire was a reality at the time, of course. As I explained, this is a country very well acquainted with it. And on the evening of October 8th, 1871, Chicago's fire department had had their work cut out for them after a particularly dry spell, 22 days without rain, that had left the place an absolute tinderbox. Over the course of the week, they'd already fought 20 fires. Understaffed and with shoddy equipment, they'd asked many times to have upgraded, but of course, the city was like, nah, you're fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
According to American experience, their success relied on their getting to a fire quickly, stopping it before it got too out of hand for their equipment to be able to handle. That night, a fire began in the barn of the O'Leary family, Irish immigrants who had been in America for about 20 years after fleeing the Great Famine. They had 4 kids and lived in an area of town considered to be the wrong side of the tracks. Chicago Evening Post reporter Joseph Edgar Chamberlain said of it at the time,
That neighborhood had always been a terra incognita to respectable Chicagoans. And during a residence of 3 years in the city, I had never visited it. The land was thickly studded with one-story frame dwellings, cow stables, pigsties, corn cribs, sheds innumerable. Every wretched building within 4 feet of its neighbor, and everything of wood. Not a brick or a stone in the whole area.
perfect.
There
We
you
can't
go.
be entirely sure what happened to start the fire in the barn. The popular story, the one that appears in the barn, is that a lantern was hung and then kicked over by one of their milk cows. Another theory goes that that was just sort of a cover, and the fire had been started during a night of partying in the barn with lots of drinking and smoking and
Yes.
gambling.
Smoking, drinking moonshine,
This is not
I would
Prohibition
imagine.
era, so they were probably just drinking regular
Hooch.
alcohol, just, just like regular stuff, regular whiskey, you
Uh,
know,
store-bought.
store-bought whiskey. Yes.
Uh,
um, No, like I said, this was the bad side of town, allegedly. So while this could be true, it's also worth noting that this is exactly the kind of rumor people start about what those
yeah,
dirty, poor immigrants are up to.
yeah.
So could just be run-of-the-mill prejudice. But the fire definitely did start in that barn. We do know that, one way or another. And a watchman spotted it, but made a grave error, considering getting to a fire quickly was the only way for the fire brigade to get a handle on it. The watchman said that the fire was near Canalport and Halstead, but it was actually at Decoven and Jefferson Streets.
Mm.
When he realized this error, he tried to correct it, but the telegraph dispatcher wasn't having it. He figured that changing the location would cause confusion. At the same time, a storekeeper had pulled one of the city's brand new fire alarms,
Yeah.
but it didn't work.
Son of a bitch.
So the firefighters were dispatched to the wrong place, and they didn't arrive until the blaze had been going for nearly 90 minutes. 90 minutes burning through a tightly packed wood neighborhood. There was also a strong gusty wind that night, only aiding in spreading the fire across the city's wooden structures. And by 11:30 p.m., 3 hours after the start of the fire, it had leapt the Chicago River, quote, igniting the waste and oil floating on the surface of the river. And as it hopped over using river trash as fuel, it went ahead and ate up the
Mm.
many other wooden structures along the river, including lumber yards and dry goods warehouses. If you wanted to create a
Dry
city
goods.
that the
Dry goods.
dry goods, if you wanted to create a city that the fire would eat like pyrotechnic dominoes, this is exactly the city you would build. It
Fuck.
was just completely full of fuel everywhere. Horace White, editor in chief of the Chicago Tribune, wrote,
The dogs of hell were upon the housetops of LaSalle and Wells Street, just south of Adams, bounding from one to another. A column of flame would shoot up from a burning building, catch the force of the wind, and strike the next one, which in turn would perform the same direful office for its neighbor.
which is vivid. Sometime around midnight, the city gasworks exploded, which not only, of course, fed the fire, it also knocked the lights out for most of the city. This was unquestionably too big for the city's 185 firefighters.
Mm.
Fire had become an unstoppable force. By 3 a.m., the waterworks was ablaze, destroying the city's primary source of drinking water and the water that the firefighters were using to put it out. All gone.
Well, they ran out of water.
Yeah,
Oh, shit.
pretty much. Yeah.
This was the one thing they didn't want to happen.
Right. City engineer DeWitt Cregier wrote,
Oh, me. The whole neighborhood for blocks around became a sea of fire. The pumping works became an utter wreck. Nothing but the naked walls of the building and the broken and the blackened skeletons of 3 engines were left to mark the spot from whence only a few hours before flowed millions of gallons of pure water.
and Chicago Board of Public Works President William H. Carter explained that whole squares were vanishing as though they were gossamer. Men, women,
Wow.
and children rushing frantically in all directions to save their lives, some away, but others into traps and places where they were soon surrounded and no retreat left. That's terrifying.
Yeesh.
The,
Yeah.
the fire was so all-encompassing, it was nearly impossible to know which way you should go to escape it, so people
You know
just
how you can't
guessed.
crush deaths set you off? Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
handle crushed deaths.
Mhm.
Drowning deaths, how are you with drowning?
I mean, I don't like it, of course. I listened to some very in-depth descriptions of the process of drowning in what book did I just read yesterday? The Perfect Storm.
Uh-huh.
But it's
Are
not the
you
same as
someone
crushing
who
death.
will you hold your breath along with the character in a movie when they're
Yes,
underwater? Will you
very
time
much so.
yourself to see,
Oh, I don't.
if hypothetically you could have survived?
I don't time it. I just do it automatically.
just to see if you could have managed it.
No, I've never thought about it that way. I
Mm,
just
you will.
I
You
just
will
do it.
now.
You know, an interesting fact that
Could have
though I
lived.
learned in the perfect storm
Mm.
is when you are drowning, you have basically a certain amount of time that you can hold your breath before your body automatically takes one. And it's like something like, I mean, depending obviously on, if you are great at holding your breath or whatever, things like that. Like, I think for like
Yeah.
a normal person who is not like trained to do it, it's like 90 seconds or something like that. You will, if you have not taken a breath, your body will automatically just reason out that, like,
Now,
we should try it.
it might not shock you to hear that I consider myself to have excellent lung capacity and the
No,
ability to hold my breath for a
really.
very long period of time.
Like, I think I could not take a breath.
No, not indefinitely. I'm not saying like
Yeah.
there would. I say at some point I would have to breathe. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you that, granted. But I believe myself to have an extra, a really good length of time that I could beat you. Let's put it like that. I reckon I could beat you.
I'm a swimmer. Why would you be able to beat me?
Well, let's just I won't talk about it any further on the cast. Let's just do it in private. Let's just
Okay,
do it in
well,
private, right?
we'll try. Yeah, we'll
Have a
have a
think
little
now,
breath
right
holding.
now, listener.
Yeah.
Who can hold their breath longer, me or Corey? Because I
Get your
know who my money's on.
get
Sorry.
your votes in.
Go
Why do
on.
you think you can hold your breath so long? Like, do you do this? Is this a thing you
Yeah,
just
I
do
do.
while you're
And I
sitting on
think
your
I'm good at it.
couch?
It's surely, when you're driving, surely there are landmarks when you're driving that you have to kind of hold your breath as
Sure,
you
like a
go past
tunnel.
certain
Mm-hmm.
tunnels. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. Um, I always try and extend that. So when I'm driving past the same landmark, I try and get further and further and further each time.
Hmm.
And I don't have to breathe until I'm a good kind of quarter of a mile into Wales now. I always kind of hold my breath at the border and
And just
hang
see
on
how
to it
far
for
you
as
can go.
long as I possibly fucking can.
Interesting.
And yeah, I'll just put it like that.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I thought it was fascinating that this is just something that no matter you can't. So if you're drowning, you can't hold your breath until you drown. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yes,
you
yes.
will eventually
Yeah,
take that breath,
yeah.
which I
It's
thought was
almost
interesting.
relaxing, isn't it? Almost
Well, it's
let
kind of,
water in.
yeah, I think, in the book it was saying it's kind of posited that like your body is doing some sort of math here of figuring out like I can't do this forever, so maybe it would
Sure.
be better to just
To get it out the
try
way.
to
Yeah,
get some
get it
air
done.
in. And so you can't fight
Let's
that at
die.
a
Let's get
certain
on with
point.
dying.
Yeah, let's just do this. So some people will kind of immediately go into choking on water mode, but yeah, there's a certain point at which you will never hold your breath until you die. Your body will try to breathe at some point, and at that point then you will fill with
Die.
yeah, you will fill with the water, or someone pulls you out and gets it out of your lungs. But I thought that was interesting. I'd always kind of assumed you could do
Mm.
that, but you cannot. You will eventually
You will
breathe,
always die with water in your lungs.
pretty much, unless you die quickly.
Yeah, yeah,
Which
yeah.
was the case with another guy in this, that it was just like the way he hit the water or whatever, he like never never inhaled. He was dead before he got a chance to even do that. Drowning is really interesting. If you're interested in the process of it, read The Perfect Storm, because I mean, it is a long chapter on all of
Uh,
the bodily processes of drowning.
I would love to actually. I would love to read that because I mean, much like beheading, it's a process one can only know one particular way. There's only one way of knowing what drowning is like.
Well, no, but I mean, it's not though, right? Like, because a lot of people almost drown, and that's why we know so much
Yeah.
about drowning, is because you
But to
can
drown to
die
completion, to
and
drown
be
to death,
right. You can drown to
which is the
death and be
yes.
resuscitated. And so
Uh,
that's what makes drowning interesting, is we know the whole process. We know
that's like
exactly
saying
what
you
it feels
you
like.
you quit smoking whilst continuing to smoke, isn't it? You
No,
can't drown to death and
you can
yet
drown to death. Your heart can stop and people can bring you back to life
if you
after
almost
you
died,
have
you didn't die,
drowned.
did you? By definition.
No, people die and are resuscitated all the time. This is not unusual.
Look, it's semantic, and I know it's wordplay, but if you
Right.
died and were
But you have
resuscitated, did you? You
functionally
did. Well,
in
I put it to you that you
every,
didn't fucking die, did you? You almost
but
died.
you did, and then you were
Uh,
brought back. You physiologically died, and then you are brought back from being dead.
I think being dead or not, it's an interesting question. Look, we know, of course, that it's not a binary; it's a process.
Right. Yeah,
But on
exactly.
paper, if you died and were brought back, you didn't really die, did you?
Disagree.
All
But
right.
that is to say that, though, with drowning, you go through the entire process of death
Yes,
and you can
it's a
still
whole.
survive.
Yeah.
So we have more information than a lot of other ways of dying about what the process is because we can read what people's brains were doing. We can ask them what they thought about, all that kind of stuff.
Remember that
Again, really,
fantastic Netflix air quotes documentary about surviving death and
yeah.
the air quote science of near-death
Yeah.
experiences? Just not even the
Just
slightest
total
whit
garbage.
of journalistic rigor in any way at all. It was just absolute fluid, horrible stuff.
Yes. And that's not what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
For the record, just the actual physiological process of drowning, which has nothing to do with the Great Chicago Fire. And I don't know why we're talking
Also
about
true,
it.
yes. Yeah, my fault. My fault.
Nonetheless, so let's see. The gasworks exploded, the waterworks exploded. Where are we? So all these people are trying to leave and they keep on going like the wrong way and getting trapped. And there's some pretty harrowing descriptions because we have a lot of like witness accounts of what happened here, of people like, you know, going to the river and trying to like flee there and like waiting there with all their stuff as like the flames are getting closer and closer to them. And as we know, like it jumped the river, there's like flames on the water. So like the thing that people thought would be like the safest place to go was in fact also on fire.
Mm.
And lots of story of people, just having the heat pressing against them and all of this stuff. Like you would basically anywhere in the city where this was
Anywhere you
burning,
thought was safe.
it's just smoke and fire. You
Hmm.
would be, being choked by smoke and feeling the heat of the fire all over the city. The wind caused what are scientifically known as convection spirals.
I
Uh,
know this.
do you?
Yes, I do. That's
Do you
that
know what they're
swirly whirl.
colloquially called?
Ah, whirly burns.
No. Maybe in the UK that does sound like something you'd call it. They call
Now
them,
say yours and know that mine was better.
I'm not going to deny it. They call them fire devils.
Oh no, that was good. Yeah, yeah.
Which is, I mean, do you guys have dust devils or dirt devils?
Nope.
You don't have that. So like if you look into like if you're driving through a particular like barren sort of farmland or something like that where nothing's planted or whatever and there's a lot of dirt, a lot of times when it gets really windy, you'll
Yeah.
see what looks like a tiny little tornado in the field, and it's not going to suck you into it or anything like that. It's just the wind blowing these little spirals, and people call them dirt
Okay.
devils. So a fire devil is, a dirt devil only with
On
fire.
fire. Yeah.
Yeah, basically giant dust devils made of fire that spin around and spit burning debris every which way, lighting
Fuck
more
that.
shit on
Twisters 3,
fire.
mate. Twisters 3. I guarantee
Twisters
you.
3,
I guarantee you Twisters 3 is going to be
just
fire devils.
fire devils.
Whirly
That's a
burns, mate.
separate.
Twisters
Okay,
3. Whirly burns.
listen, here's one of my complaints about Twisters is because,
Huh?
like 10 years ago, we got Into the Storm, which introduced us to the Fire NATO, which is a real
Mm.
phenomenon. And Twisters had the opportunity to show us a Fire NATO because a tornado comes and destroys a like huge, like fiery oil building or something like that. And they wussed out. They didn't give us a Fire NATO. The fuck?
Saving it for the prequel.
God, I hate it so much. But anyways, so yeah, fire devils are also throwing flaming debris all over the place, lighting stuff that wasn't already on fire on fire. By 8:30 in the morning, the city was a ruin. Reporters noted that there were no signs of life, not even the streetcars that usually even ran on the Sabbaths and holidays. those were completely gone too. The only thing left to do to stave off any further destruction was for the army to literally blow up any buildings that were still in the path of the fire, just trying to keep there from being anything for the fire to jump to. They were like, if we don't want it to
I
keep coming
see.
here,
Yeah, yeah,
we'll
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
blow up the buildings that are in between and
Smart.
stop it. Yeah. Smart, but a bummer because a lot of people, as such, just had to stand there and watch their
Mm.
houses be blown up right in front of them. And a thing that I didn't write in here, but that I read that was wild is that, like, a lot of people had insurance, but because the insurance burned up, nobody honored the insurance.
Motherfucker.
Right? Like, just sorry, you don't have the form.
Papers is gone.
Your paper went up in flame in your wooden house. So sorry about your insurance. So crazy. And so all these people are watching their houses
Wild.
blow up and they're not gonna get anything back for that. Um uh even still, many people were sure that the wind would change and their homes would be fine, not fleeing until the absolute last minute, if at all. And fleeing was circuitous. People would head to one spot and then that would catch fire, and then they'd go somewhere else and the fire would catch up with them there. People and horses were all exhausted, and soon they were shedding the belongings they kept with them because they were too damn tired to drag them along.
Wow.
One mother recounted, I had to wake the children up and we had to run again and leave everything to burn. This time we felt heat on our backs, and when we ran, like when one stands with the back to a grate fire, which is like great, Grate, like if you were
Yeah,
standing
sure,
against a
sure, sure.
fireplace. Finally, the second night, merciful rain fell on Chicago, extinguishing the remaining fires. When the smoke cleared, people found the charred bodies of humans and animals in the river and in the wreckage of homes. All told, 73, here's your stats, Mark, 73 miles of streets and 17,450 buildings had been destroyed, and a third of the population was left homeless. 300 people died, but only 120 bodies were ever recovered. The rest were just charred beyond recognition.
Mm.
Now, an official inquiry found that the fire had resulted from, quote, shoddy construction, lax building inspection, and a poorly equipped fire department. Matthias Benner, who had been third assistant fire marshal, said,
I hate to say things unpleasant to anybody, but if Chicago had done her duty, the flames would have been checked at Taylor Street. The engine had no steam on when she left her quarters and could do nothing when she reached the fire. When the company returned from the Saturday night fire, they were utterly exhausted, and when they housed their engine and cart, they dragged themselves to their bunk room. The captain went home. The slumber of the men was shortly broken by the alarm for the big fire, and they were indeed caught napping. Their engine was uncleaned after her rough experience. There was no fire in the firebox. Everything was as it should not be.
the one defense the city had against such a horrific event was an overtaxed fire department that was
They
so
were fucking
exhausted.
ruined. Yep.
Yeah, they didn't even have the energy to put their engine away properly so it'd be ready for the next fire.
Mm.
A thing the city knew and did nothing about. So, Mark, who do you think everyone blamed?
Oh, the firemen, obviously.
Not quite.
Okay.
They blamed Mrs. O'Fucking Leary.
Oh, yeah, well, obviously. Putting her fucking lamp on the shed, the silly bitch.
The press made her, and by extension, the Irish, into the villain of the story,
Yeah.
despite the fact that we can categorically say she was in bed that night, and whatever happened, she was not at all responsible for it. But beyond that, if the city hadn't been hastily built up with no regard for safety, and then the fire department denied the resources they needed, a fire in some Irish broad's barn wouldn't have raised an entire city. She
Hmm.
spent the next 24 years of her life basically a recluse because everyone hated her for torching Chicago. But in the 90s, the city formally declared she'd done nothing wrong. Some cold comfort to the matter that once
Well,
was Catherine
then,
O'Leary.
surely we should go back and amend the song,
Well, sure, yeah, you would think.
you know?
Uh, but I don't think most people know that she was absolved.
Justice, a little bit of
A little bit of
restorative justice
justice.
for her.
Yeah. Yeah. But obviously, this is just deeply on brand for America to see a structural problem
Well,
and
yeah.
immediately find a way to make it the immigrants' fault.
Hmm.
And as is the case with pretty much every horrible and preventable tragedy I tell you about, the Chicago fire led to a host of new laws and regulations. Although National Geographic noted that some of the rebuilding began before architects and engineers had even had a chance to finish the designs. So they hadn't learned all of their lessons. They were still rushing it. But the new buildings had to be made with materials like brick, stone, and marble so that they would be more fireproof. And the unfortunate side effect of that was that using these materials was much more expensive than wood. So many people were pushed out of the city because they simply couldn't afford to rebuild their homes
Yep.
or their businesses for that matter.
You survived, but you're fucked.
Yeah, but
you will never financially
yeah, you're gonna
recover
have to
from this.
move to
Just
Wisconsin.
take teeth.
Sorry.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Hit the bricks.
Pretty much, yeah. And terracotta became the preferred building material throughout the city, making
Good.
Chicago actually one of the most fireproof cities in the nation by the mid
Uh,
1880s, according to National Geographic. The city rebuilt, and by 1893, they even had a whole ass World's Fair there, which we mostly know now for H. Holmes and his murder spree, but it gave us a lot of things like the Ferris wheel, for example. And now, over a century later, the memory of the Great Chicago Fire for many Americans is just a cute little song about some poor lady's cow.
you're so goofy. That was very funny. Well, there were all the murders, but it did give us the Ferris wheel, for example. So it was.
Well, you got to balance things out, you know? Some people were shoved
uh,
into a kiln and burned alive, but on the other hand, ice cream
goofy and
cones.
unserious. That's what you are.
I'll take it. All right. Would you like to take us in, Mr. Lewis?
Yes, look, purely along for the ride this week.
Yes.
Just purely here to fulfill obligations. I'm just here to
Wow.
just
Okay.
make your just to make your evening fun and to deliver you, friends, another wonderful episode of your award-winning podcast, Jack of all graves.
Yes. Many awards happening all the time, constantly.
One just this last week, in fact, a big
Right.
one
Yes, of course. The big
was
award this
in
past week.
LA. The World Podcast Championships were held in LA this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And your boys here, Jack of all graves, we walked away with the gold medal.
Gold medal of the podcast. What was it? The World Podcast
Podcast Championships.
Championships.
Yeah,
Championships. Yes.
we
Which was
got the
notably
crown.
the only competition going on this week, so everybody was watching it.
Did big numbers, mate.
Big numbers. Mark, what happened to your face? What's going
Right,
on
so
here?
you've noticed that. Okay,
I
so
have
it's
noticed.
an audio medium, so I'll just paint a picture. You paint a picture, Corrigan. What do you see?
You
What do you
your
see?
mid nose is sliced. You've got a slice, a bloody looking slice on your
All
nose.
right. What you are describing there is an impact injury, right?
Mm,
All I can do is lay it out for you as it happened to me. I'm just going to
okay, hit
describe
me.
the chain of events as they happened. Right. So after work Friday, I drove to London to meet a good friend and to go and see a band, to go and see Alkaline Trio. Great band.
Nice. Yep, always good
Now,
time.
er, you'll know it's been a long couple of weeks work-wise.
Yes.
Friday was a long day. It was a long drive to London. Traffic was awful. Got there, and a combination of fatigue and it being a hot ass room and maybe not having eaten as well as I could have been.
Sure.
So I stood up, right? And I was surrounded by loads of people. It was the support band, and you know, I knew that I was going to gray out, right? I knew that I was going to hit the deck, right?
Oh man.
There was a kind of a tingling in my extremities and my fingers.
Oh no.
And I knew, your body, and I knew, right, I'm going to hit the deck here. I didn't realize I really did, right?
Wow.
I come to on the ground, holding my hands in front of my face. My hands are being pitter patter covered in blood from my nose, right?
Do you know
My
how
nose is.
long it had been? Like, was it
I
like
can only imagine
immediate?
seconds.
Okay.
I don't, but again, I don't know.
Sure.
It feels as though there's a lot of blood pouring out onto my hands, right?
Yep.
I'm then helped by a few people out. I feel as though we went outside. Um,
Okay.
was sat on a wall outside, and some guys checked me over. Some guys in high vis coats. I don't know if they were local security or if they were St. John's ambulance, or I don't know who they were. But they checked me out, checked my nose out, shone a torch in my eyes, chatted to me. Uh, I was somebody got me some water to clean blood off me.
It's nice.
Uh, yes, I was checked out, deemed all right, felt okay.
Okay,
You know,
good.
I'd come back to, snap back to reality. Um,
Sure.
I was then given a really nice seat to the side, just off the front of the stage, and
Hey.
enough water to last me through the night. And it turned out, to have a fantastic view of a fantastic show.
Did your
But
friend
it
get
did,
to sit with you too?
unfortunately, not. Um,
Oh,
I was
boo.
separated, but it was for my own good. I wasn't right for a while.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't right for a while. It was very disorienting. It was
Yeah.
hugely disorienting to you know gray out for what, 4 or 5 seconds, I guess,
Right.
and to give yourself a proper fucking smash
Yeah,
on the
geez.
front of the face.
Like honestly,
Um,
what are the odds even? Like you're in like a whole like
uh,
concert and you manage to find a table to smash your face
yeah,
into.
just
Jesus.
inches lower, it would have been my teeth. I would have caved my teeth
Yeah.
in.
Mm-hmm.
Not good. So as it is, yes, I have a crack across the bridge of the nose. Which, I don't know. Is it a little bit Jason Statham, perhaps? Is it a little bit
Oh,
sexy? I
okay.
don't
Yeah. I
know.
mean, it does look hard. Like,
There you go. There you
you
go.
look tough
There you
if
go.
you don't know that you
Tougher.
just maybe didn't eat enough snacks and fell over at a concert. Yeah.
Yes.
If you come up with a better story than that. I assume you
No,
were
I don't need one.
knowing you were probably wearing black, so at least you didn't have blood all
I
over
was,
your
yeah, exactly this. Black
stuff.
top. Yeah, no problems there at all. But there was lots of concern. I did find my way to the gents to kind of wash my face off. One guy was like, "What happened, mate? What happened, mate?" I was like, "Don't worry, it's cool. There was no violence. It was all me."
It's like it's
I
not, it's just
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did it
yeah, yeah.
myself.
Yeah, all good. Cleaned myself off, had a seat for the rest of the gig.
Which is always nice.
Listen,
I
hey,
love a
I
seat.
just I would have liked to have not smashed my face
Right.
to get
Like
it.
maybe next time pay for VIP instead of,
There you go.
falling over and injuring
VIP one
yourself.
way or the other, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes, you're gonna get that goddamn seat. I'm
Yes.
glad you didn't get concussed or break your nose or anything like that.
Yeah, look, Corey, it's tender,
Uh, I was
right?
gonna ask. I mean, I wasn't gonna use
This
that word, but yeah, I was gonna ask.
what word would you have used, just out of
I don't
curiosity?
know. I'm not sure. Uh,
Sore.
yeah, this is sore, probably.
It
Yeah,
is. It is tender to palpate.
yeah. You don't need to palpate it. I believe you.
Okay.
It's
Just, well, just if you didn't, there it is.
let me just
Ow.
let me just show you this action that I'm doing actually is quite painful to endure.
Yes. And like I said, and upsetting, emotionally quite upsetting to have that
Well,
happen.
right. Yeah. That's a little bit horrifying, but
Uh,
that's I think we were talking earlier about like that's your sign from the universe if you were a white girl to, pay a little more
yeah,
attention to what your body's asking for.
I'm generally quite in tune with the universe. I
Mm-hmm.
think that I believe in karma, hun.
Right? Of course. Yep. Everything
You
comes
know?
back around to you.
Exactly.
You
What
get
you
what
put
you
out
put
there,
out
the
there.
energy you put out there, hun, is what you get back.
You only get what you give.
Da 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 da. And that was a sign from the cosmos telling me maybe take a bit of better care of yourself for a bit,
Mm.
hun.
Sometimes you really
You
need
know?
that just punch upside the face as a
Yeah.
reminder.
Yeah. And to anybody who might have been sat on that table that I delivered apparently a convincing diving facial headbutt to.
You are, I mean, that is now
I
you are part
apologize.
of many people's story of that night.
Yeah.
Like there are people who got onto social media and were like, "You will not believe what
Yeah.
happened at this concert." Guy just
Happened
straight dove into a table.
at the previous most messy gig I ever attended was Nin with Alan in Cornwall a
Yeah.
few years back. And that
Boy, I
that
was
found its way
surprised you
independently
guys
of me. I got a message from an unknown on Twitter, as it was formerly known then.
Yep.
Remember Twitter?
Yeah. I have a vague recollection of such
A
times.
geezer sent me a photo. Mate, is this you? We met you the night. Good laugh. And it was me having at the point of the night before it turned, at the point of the night where it was still friendly and nice.
Right, yeah. I was unsure of whether you and Al were going to make it home because it had
Make it
reached the
back.
point at that particular show where you were both calling me and
Ooh,
leaving unintelligible
yeah.
messages.
Anyway,
So, at least this time.
you don't want to hear about that, audience. My loves.
uh, Good stuff. Glad you're all right, Mark. And you
Oh, I
were.
am, of course. I'm unkillable.
Don't say things
No, I would. I want to go on record as having said that.
just,
I
just don't
cannot be
like
killed.
when you say things like this. That activates my superstitious
You
part.
cannot kill me in any way that matters.
That's fine. Let's go with that.
All right.
But you
What
were.
did you say it's 4 years today or something? It's 4 years this
No, I
episode.
didn't. I didn't say that. No.
Did you
What
not?
actually happened was you didn't open up GarageBand. Just like every week, you don't open up GarageBand to record this, and I said 4 years, Mark. 4 years.
Okay, I see.
But it will be in like a month. I think it's August 30th, I think is the first JOAG,
Excellent.
somewhere in that vicinity. So
four
yeah, we
year
are,
anniversary.
yeah, about to be 4 years, which, early on I tried to convince you to get a tattoo and you said not until 5 years. I hold that because you will be here just after 4 years, that is in the fifth year and that counts.
Oh, that's moving the goalpost
I don't think
somewhat.
it is. Don't
Oh,
think it
right, all right,
is.
fine. Okay, I'll get a tattoo then, if you don't think it is
Perfect.
moving the goalpost.
Yes. Okay. It's settled
Oh,
then.
for the record, I didn't mean that.
I don't know. I don't know. But
My wife's a solicitor.
I just think it's time. That's all I'm saying. And hey, if
Oh.
friends, you are going to come along on that journey
Bring a
here
tattoo kit.
in
I'll only do it
September,
if someone brings their own tattoo kit and does it for
you
me.
be
I'm
careful.
not
It might
paying
just
anyone to do
happen.
it.
My friend Vic did. That's how I ended up with this guy. And how 9 of my friends, including my husband, all have that as well. My friend Vic brought a tattoo
Someone
gun
did
to a
it.
party.
You are kidding me.
I kid you not. No.
That is absurd. Which one? Your
The
goldfish?
goldfish. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. My dear friend Vic, she did this at a party and it was a grand old time. But yes, if you're coming in New York, A, bring your tattoo gun, and B, make sure that you get onto our Discord because I've been emailing everybody the info packet with all the things you need to know for when you come here, what we're doing, where we're going, times, apps that you need, all the stuff. Everything that you need to know about coming here for this meetup is in a little info packet. So get on our Discord, give me your email address and I will send that to you so you can join the shindig. It's already a good sized posse and we're going to have so much fun.
It is a good sized posse, isn't it? I
Yeah.
am living for it. I'm not going to lie to you.
You pretty stoked on this?
Yes, I am. I am absolutely living for it. Our Discord, incidentally, which was the site of another very fun watch along last night.
Indeed.
Uh, Whoever mentioned or championed or voted for or just breathed the name hackers, which got it in front of us last night. Well done, because it perfectly met the brief in every
It
sense.
did.
It
Absolutely.
was a load of fun and just the box that I didn't really even know the one that I wanted ticked was the one that it ticked. It was better
Oh,
than it could have
amazing.
been. Well
I
done.
had
Well
no
done.
idea you'd never seen it before, too.
Never seen
So
it.
I wish that I'd known that
Idiocy.
at the beginning.
Just the most
Because
idiotic film. Such fun.
it is. It's so much fun. And I feel like you would have been very into it at the time, too. So I'm glad that now you've gotten to see it. It is not Hackers. Did we even say it was Hackers? Hackers was the movie we watched. And Hackers is not a good movie, but boy, is it a vibe. Does it
Um,
nail its
yeah,
moment?
yeah, 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 yeah.
You know?
Agreed in full.
So we had a great time. Thanks to everyone for coming along to our watch along. As always, hopefully we can get one in next month. I think it needs to be New York based. That
If
feels
that's our last
necessary
one
to me
before it
before
becomes
you come
Joag
here.
USA IRL,
Yes.
can you believe that, by the way?
I know, right? At which point we will watch a movie right here in my backyard with our listeners.
Can you reserve the screen at the library? Can you bring them and put it on
So
hold?
apparently I can't reserve it
Put it on
until it's
layaway?
closer. So I'm just going to be very on top of it. I mean, I have my own for the record. No matter what,
Of
we are
course, of
watching a movie in the
course.
backyard, but they have a 20-foot one at the library. And so I'm working to
Unreal.
try to get that 20-foot screen into my backyard.
That won't
Either way,
fit in your garden, surely, for fuck's sake. A 20-foot screen.
it'll fit in my garden. You're coming to
Yes.
America,
Very
Mark.
nice.
Get ready for
Yeah, fair enough,
American
fair enough, fair
sized
enough.
yards. And so hopefully we'll be able to do that, and it'll be very fun. But either way, we're gonna watch something.
Oh,
So
so
but
cool.
for next month's watch along, I think we need for it to be something New York based. I don't know if we need a theme beyond that, but it's got to be New York based.
Yeah, New York core.
New York core coming through, which is a lot of horror movies. A lot of them come from especially 80s and 90s seedy New York City.
That's
Um,
automatically the vibe you go for, isn't it? It's
mhm.
your driller killer kind of
Right.
Henry. I don't even know if Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer was set in New York.
I
It,
don't
it
think
feels
so.
like it was. Um, yeah, that would be amazing. Thanks again for everybody who came last night and continues to come to our watch alongs. They're the best. And remain a highlight of my monthly calendar. So thank you as always.
Indeed. Now, Mark, there's just one thing
Mm.
before we get into the watch along that I want to bring up to you. So last
I mean,
week,
you can.
oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I have your consent to bring something up
Yeah,
to you.
all right, go on.
Last week before we started recording, you and I had a conversation about sports. And anyone who listens to this, one of my one of my favorite moments on here, of many favorite moments on Jack of All Graves, but a great one was when you said something along the lines of, "And we're not sports people." It's like, whoa, hold on. I am very much a sports person. I just don't talk about it
Yeah,
with you
okay.
because you're not a sports
Apologies
guy.
for I didn't want to kind of speak for you, and
No,
I'm
but it
not a
was
sports
funny
person now.
because yeah, it was, you're so not a sports person that I had just never
Yeah.
brought up sports with you. There's no reason to, but I love sports. I'm a big sports person. I like playing them. I like watching them. I'm into it. And we were talking before last week's episode that, I was like, you're not completely against the idea of sports because you watch pro wrestling. Obviously, it's fixed. Obviously, there's storylines, things like that. But like,
Yeah.
it's athletic feats,
Oh,
and
look. Yeah.
yeah, you like a
Feats
good
of
athletic feat,
human potential and
right?
achievement are always thrilling to watch, right?
Yeah.
When I
So
say I don't like sports, just for clarity, what I'm really saying is I can't abide the tribalism that comes with it
right,
and how
exactly.
closely
It's the
fucking
culture you
intrinsically to
don't
me,
like,
yes, exactly. It's linked with thuggery and the lowest form
right?
of expression. Go on.
So I think I found the sport for you.
Great.
This is the one. It is
But I've got pro wrestling though.
women's.
I'm not on
You've
the
got pro
lookout for one.
wrestling,
I'm
don't get me
not.
wrong. But like
Okay.
there's a part of me that just feels like, if I were to if I were to come over, let's say I come to England and I'm staying in your guest room and I'm like, I'd like to watch a sports with Mark.
Oh,
Uh I could put this on and I think we could have a fun time together.
okay.
It is women's rugby sevens. Okay.
All right.
Now
Why
you
not?
had
Yeah,
a
why not? Why not?
you had a
Brawny
stint.
fucking yep.
Right. You had a stint as a rugby player. So you like
Very
generally,
brief.
very brief, but like you generally understand what rugby is, how it works, right? You don't have to know
Yes.
everything
I have a
about
working
rugby.
understanding of
You
the
have a
sport of rugby,
working
yes.
understanding of the sport of rugby, right? You love a bulky woman. Uh
It cannot be denied.
it cannot be denied. So it's teams of women with all of them
Powerful.
having thighs that they could crush your head
There you
with,
go.
right?
They
Like
oof,
powerful, powerful
hello.
thighs doing insane feats of athleticism. I mean, the kind of stuff you see in wrestling, jumping and rolling and, all of that kind of stuff, grappling, like
Athletic
they're,
feats. Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
grappling with each other,
Grappling, you
all of
say.
that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, there's so much graps
Huh.
going on in sevens. Sevens rugby
Why is
is,
it sevens?
I was
What's
about to
sevens
explain
about
it to
it?
you.
Okay, thanks,
So
thanks.
normal rugby, as you probably know, has 15 people to a side.
Yeah.
Sevens rugby has 7 to a side.
Okay.
And each game is 14 minutes. So you don't
Oh,
have to sit
that's
there and
no
watch
big commitment.
for hours and hours and hours of it. You have
Quite
14
intense.
minutes
I should
in a game.
imagine just
An
14 minutes of
extremely
absolute
intense
fucking mayhem.
14 minutes in which
Gotta
it's
get it.
high scoring, right? It's not like
Yeah.
soccer where it's like you watch however many minutes soccer is and like there's 2 goals at the end of the game, right? This is constant, constant scoring over the course of 14 minutes. And on top of that, because it's like a 14-minute match, usually there's like a bunch of them, right? And
Okay.
if you're only attached to one team, then like you're gonna watch a 14-minute match and then leave? Nah, you just get used to
But it
like
could be quite
cheering
a
on
quick day if they get
everybody.
knocked out like early in the day.
Right,
You
exactly. Like
could,
you would be like,
yeah,
okay, I guess I'm going home. I only
go
like the
about my
Black
day.
Ferns. I only like the Eagles, whatever. I watch one thing and I'm gone. That's not how sevens are. You are in it for everybody. So the tribalism, not a thing. Yes, people come in their like countries, whatever, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people come in stupid costumes, like ridiculous stuff, dressed as bananas and
Oh,
hot dogs and things
listen, that
like
I have
that.
no issues with. Bring that
Right.
on.
Yeah. So it's not tribal. It's the best vibes. The last time that I went to the sevens, I used to go to the sevens every year in Vegas.
Oh, you go. Nice.
Yeah. And the last time that I went, there was like a group of Canadians behind us, and I overheard that it was one of their birthdays. So I ordered them a round of Molson's. So, it's just like,
Yeah,
it's
you.
chill. Nobody is concerned about like what team you're rooting for or anything like that. Everyone sits together. It's a grand time. Mark, women's
That is a
rugby
baller move,
sevens.
Corey. All right, thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Pop it on the Olympics or whatever at some point. You'll, at least
Yeah, interesting, the
get a
Olympics.
fun eyeful.
Well, again, France continues to justify my love. I enjoy France.
Oh, I hate
I
France, and they continue to uh, back that up with most things about them.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, well, I'll keep it brief then. I quite like their temperament, their perceived temperament. I quite enjoy how they, take very little shit. And I don't really know who's responsible for it, but I know that they aren't
Sure.
uh gonna let the Olympics pass without incident,
Right. Yep. Yeah. Sure riled a
which you
few
gotta
people.
love.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I
Uh
enjoyed bringing in the medal to the opening ceremonies was
oh,
a
fucking
delight.
look. Hey, Gojira are a phenomenal band.
Yep.
They are among they're one of these look these Gojira, one of the bands that elevate what metal can be and can achieve. They're fucking great.
I
Just
randomly
spring.
saw, I was on a bus from the Netherlands to Belgium and
Okay.
randomly saw like this small truck. So it wasn't like a tour bus or anything like that. It wasn't even really big enough to carry gear. I have no idea why. Just this small truck with like a boxy back on it that was adorned with like Gojira's latest album or whatever.
All
So
right,
like
it's
it was
cool.
like
Street
advertising it or
team.
something. Yeah, like
Uh
the street team. I was like, I don't know why this is, but okay.
look, maybe in with a little bit of thought, perfect for an Olympics opening ceremony. Um, be it as they, as they produce long, groovy, fucking atmospheric, uh, groovy building atmospheric metal epics. Yeah. Four, five,
Yep.
6, 7 minute songs that just build and build and build and then deliver this absolute heavy as fuck climax. So perfect for a ceremony like this, and
Yeah.
great to see metal representing, isn't it? Isn't it?
It is. Yes, I liked the metal stuff. It was a very queer ceremony, lots
Yeah,
of
yeah.
drag and all kinds of things there. It's also extremely boring for the most part. I watched it yesterday. Um, this is the weird thing. So I've not been to Paris. I've been to Toulouse, right? And I've seen various Paris things yesterday. And part of this is it was raining, but it looks very ugly. Like the Seine is
Yeah.
hideous. And I always thought it was going to be a lot prettier. And then watching this, I was like, that's a really gross
We've got the
river.
sharks, of course.
Yeah,
You've
and the
got the
sharks, obviously, that's a problem.
a recent
Um,
development.
I do know a lot of people were shitting in the river in protest
Oh,
of the
great.
Olympics. So that,
See, yes, it
is
does.
a thing as
Paris
well.
does smell a little bit
I've always, everyone I know, my sister spent like a month
in
there,
my
and it's just,
recollection.
yeah, everyone I know has always said it reeks.
A little
Paris
bit
smells.
fucking smelly. Yep.
Yeah, it's not one of those like it's a place I feel obligated to go, but not like it's not
I've
actively
been
a
through
place
it and
I want
around
to
it more
go.
than I've spent any kind of time in
Sure.
it, you know?
Yeah, indeed.
Um,
I loved Toulouse though. Toulouse was gorgeous. I just feel like I have not been super impressed by the showing of Paris that I have seen. But anyway, Gojira was fun.
yeah. And again, all I'll say is that you just love to see it.
Yeah, you really do. It angered Christians deeply, which is always a fun
Way.
time, just wild, which always gives me a thing that every now and again I like to post when Christians are being super weird is that demons aren't real. It's just sometimes it has to be said, because my
Which of
Facebook
course
was
is what a demon would say, isn't it? I
is
mean,
exactly what a
what
demon would say. I'm sure that's what they're thinking. Like, oh man, they got her too. As my
yeah.
Facebook was full of people that I went to college with talking about how demonic the opening ceremonies were and yada
Oh,
yada. And I was like,
fantastic. Very good to hear.
oh, you sweet summer children, there is no such thing as demons. Calm the fuck down. It's like on top of it is just the idea that like every time there's something that people don't like Christians don't like, they call it demonic and like think that people are like worshiping Satan and stuff. And I'm like, nobody thinks about demons or Satan. Those were nobody's worshiping Satan. Nobody is thinking about Satan. Only you are. You need to bring it down 1,000 notches.
The early days of the show when you kind of socialized what a lot of Americans feel about demons and that they're actual physical little
Right. Yeah.
beasties.
Hmm.
That was a big watershed moment for me. That was a big light bulb moment.
Yeah. We actually believe
A
in that shit
lot,
here.
a lot fell into place then. It was, and a lot was built from then.
That's what, when anyone asks you, like,
Just
what's
little
going on
critters,
with American politics?
like
Just be like,
ghoulies. It's like ghoulies, isn't it?
they think demons are real. And then you'd be
Yeah,
like, oh, okay, that's why America's like that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's up. So anyway, on that note, shall we talk
fascinating.
about what we watched?
Yeah, let's just recap Ghoulies because I think the cast went fucky, didn't it, last week?
Yes, indeed.
In what becomes clear to me now is a very keenly observed and uncompromising gaze into America's evangelical obsession with the occult and
Yes.
physical manifestations of arcane beings
Hmm.
uh through ritual, the you know demons are made flesh, little bastards, riding that fucking gremlins wave of
Yes.
little critter core, along with, of course, critters and gremlins. This had a stab at it. Fuck it, why not us? And the first film, I was a nice easy 3 stars for me because it was a load of fun, right?
Yeah, it
Um,
is one of the you get what you pay for when you watch Ghoulies. It is, and
yes,
I mean,
video shop, video shop, video shop.
yeah, and it's such a weird movie. I think like that's what
It's
really
goofy, it's
works for
comedic,
it
it's
is that
broad,
it's
lovely 80s
yeah,
kind of
it like
uh
one part of the storyline kind of takes itself very seriously, but then
yeah.
it's offset by everything else being deeply weird and goofy, and it
Yeah,
works.
it's an easy film to like Ghoulies. It's an
Hmm.
easy if that's what you want, that's what it'll fucking give you, right? Ghoulies is a great laugh, which is all the more disappointing when, with the best of intentions, I decide I'm going to try and animate in this trilogy.
Mm.
Um, Ghoulies 2 makes it effectively impossible to continue that through to completion because it's awful.
Oh,
Uh, it
boo.
abandons all of the interesting occult bits and just becomes a B grade yeah, it's like what Critters 5 became in it covered a lot of ground in a short time. It abandoned all of the interesting stuff in favor of less interesting stuff, and I'm not even going to bother with 3 because I actually remember that I've seen it,
Oh,
and
really? Wait,
yes,
you'd never seen the first one, but you'd seen the third one?
yeah, weirdly. I can't explain why, and I remember some of the choices it makes. It's still the your chief cast of Ghoulies,
Uh-huh.
but they're bigger. They're about 4 foot high and they talk,
Okay.
and it just makes terrible choices. And I'm not doing that. I'm not putting myself through that because life's
I
short, isn't
wonder
it?
You know what's funny is that I always thought I'd seen Ghoulies until we watched it. And I was like, I had not seen Ghoulies. What you just
Okay.
said sounds familiar. Maybe I have also seen Ghoulies
Yeah,
3.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Ghoulies go to college,
Weird. Like, was that on TV or more or something? I don't know. That's very odd.
possibly. They speak, and they're essentially they're Abbott and Costello, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Fascinating. Now, a part of me kind of wants to watch to find out if that's what I thought that
Uh,
Ghoulies
if
was. Like
we've
this.
got no ideas,
Yeah,
right? If we have
right.
nothing, literally, if we watch everything else, we'll watch it.
Yeah, we'll do Ghoulies 3. It'll be a grand
Ghoulies go to
old time.
college.
We are Ghoulies go to college. I'm sorry. I need to call it by its Christian name.
Ghoulies go to college.
Um, but we have plenty of things to watch for a while though, because we have been talking for Ko-Fi, figuring out for snacks. I had this idea since we watched Hackers and I had recently just watched Running Man, which I'll talk about in a sec, but that we should do a series on our Ko-Fi where we watch a tech dystopia movie
Mm,
and we talk about what they got wrong, what they got right, all of that kind
yeah.
of stuff. Maybe what we wish they'd gotten right,
Right.
just the
When
whole
you
thing.
sent me this idea via text earlier on, and I was all over it because this is just legitimate fucking podcast content, right? This is
Yes.
such a legit idea. And a semi-regular series on our snacks that we do every month. Firstly, it's an excuse for me to watch all of those fucking beautiful dystopian classics
Hmm.
again.
Yes.
Uh,
Always a fun time.
you know, it taps into loads of stuff I love. Tech, alt history, science. Let's
Yes.
chew them over.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing that. And I think we're going to start with The Running Man because Mark has seen it recently and I watched it the other day. And boy, that is a treasure trove
It's great, isn't
of
it?
things. If you've never seen The Running Man, it is an Arnold Schwarzenegger flick in which he plays a wrongfully accused cop, I guess, who is he a
Yeah,
cop? He's like,
soldier.
yeah, like
He's like a
a
merc, isn't he?
military, right? Like something of that nature.
Paramilitary.
But I don't think he's paramilitary. I think he's like actively part of the government.
Okay,
But
okay.
he is framed for killing a whole bunch of people that he did not kill, and ends up being sort of drafted into this television game show in which prisoners can try to win a commutation of their sentence by battling to the death with these sort of American gladiators on steroids characters that come out, all while a
And what a
delighted
cast.
audience
What a
watches
cast.
and bets on it. Yeah, cast is
Uh,
incredible.
so Stephen King source material, one of
Yep.
his that I've not read.
I've never read it either, actually.
I haven't read The Long Walk, I believe it's called under his
Hmm.
pseudonym. I haven't read it.
It was always on my shelf growing up, because my
Yeah,
mom read them
same.
all, but I never read it.
Mm. One of
Uh,
only, yeah. I think I'm in the majority. I've read most of his books. There's still a chunk of
mhm.
his left to go, but I've read, I think, comfortably a majority of them.
Yeah, you're very good at keeping up with them. I always like, I get
I'll
them from
still
the
read new
library and
ones
stuff
when they
like
land.
that. And I have one right behind me, in fact. Holly is right behind me, which I got from a lady who was giving away books on our local Buy Nothing group on Facebook.
Awesome.
um, but yeah, it is a very good time. I was shocked by, I mean, I love watching Game Show Network. I think you do this when you're on vacation too, like when you were in
Oh, if there's a US game show channel
yeah.
on, it will be on in the background the whole last
Right.
time.
So I
Family
love,
Feud, as I think you call it.
yes, Family Feud. What do you call it?
Now, if you were over here, it isn't on anymore, but it ran for fucking decades.
Uh,
And if you were to sit down over here, you'd be watching Family Fortunes.
oh, see, that feels like it would get confused with Wheel of Fortune, which I did watch with
Mm,
you in Birmingham,
okay.
where you have more rules to your Wheel of Fortune than ours does.
Oh,
But yeah, Family Feud, Match Game is a favorite of mine.
yeah.
And Richard Dawson, an actual game show host of those old shows, is the game show host villain in Running Man. And I was shocked at how good he is in it. He is incredible. I was
Yeah.
so
Growing
stoked on
up, one
that.
always wondered, as a Brit kid growing up with Running Man, one always wondered if he was somebody who came from that realm of entertainment
Hmm.
because he was that good at it,
Yeah, he's
you know?
incredible. So obviously he plays the game show host well because he's an actual game show host, but the character is so good, and I was like shocked by that. I just kept on kind of like
Yeah.
nudging Keo. I'm like, can you believe that's Richard Dawson?
Yeah.
That's wild. So yeah, we'll talk about that and it'll be fun. But watched Running Man this week and had a blast with it. That is just a super fun movie. Probably Arnold's worst one-liners of all time are in this one, and I'm including the Batman ones. The
Well, what do
one-liners
you
in
mean
this are
by
truly
worst? You know,
terrible.
are you really saying best? Is that really what you're
No, like
saying?
genuinely worst. Like as in they're kind of non sequiturs and like very low effort
Yeah.
kinds of one-liners where you're like, were they just letting him make them up on the spot? These are deeply bad. Um,
Um, in other watches, so I've seen Deadpool and Wolverine, right? But
yes, yep.
not on first attempt.
Oh,
I
that's
tried to get Peter
right.
along, okay? I tried to get Peter in to see it,
Uh,
and they fucking turned us away. They
incredible.
demanded ID for Peter, which, getting back home and thinking about it, I probably could have finessed something, or tried to bullshit something.
Like
But
what? Like what?
well,
How
I
would
don't know.
you?
Would I have maybe given him my bank card and tried to get him to pass that off as his? I don't fucking know.
I mean, how old are you supposed to be?
15.
15. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
hard sell. He does not look like a 15-year-old. He's
I think
tall.
Peter, well, exactly, he does. And this was our play, right?
Uh-huh.
I loaded him up with the snacks
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and I
you
had
were
the
trying
ticket
to,
on my
yeah.
phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I take point
You were
and act
trying
as
to
the
do a
kind
little
of the
sleight
hype
of
guy.
hand kind of
Exactly. Ooh,
thing.
look at
Yeah.
this. Got the ticket, got the QR code,
Peacocking.
while Pete whoosh, just
Yeah. Slide on
peels
in.
off
Waiting
behind
for
me
you
and
on the
walks
other
on in.
side. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I thought maybe that would be enough. It wasn't enough. They called
No,
Peter
too
back.
savvy.
Yeah, they'd seen it all before. They
Mm-hmm.
saw me coming as soon as we walked through the door, Corey. As soon as we came in the joint, they had us fucking, hello, here's another
uh,
fucking.
yeah, they're
So
like,
we
people have
have
been
to
doing this all day, buddy.
so we have to leave with our popcorn and our large cokes, walk through town, walk of shame.
Oh.
Um, families walking past, at least one family walking past us clearly
Just
saw the
like
situation and
knowing.
gave us
Yeah.
a little chortle. Um, so Pete's been hankering for a while to watch Scream, okay?
Nice. Good man.
So we got home, had a movie time in the house while Laura and Owen were out. Drew the curtains, watched Scream. It was great, really good. I mean, it's a
Love it.
four-star movie. There's no way of saying it isn't. I hate what Scream became. You know this. It became fucking a
And I
monster,
still
a
don't think it's a
horrible,
fair assessment because you have not seen the other movies, but we're not
seen
going to go through this every single time this
terrible
comes up.
series. But the original remains a four-star movie, and Pete enjoyed it too. Great stuff.
Beautiful. I'm very happy to
I
hear that. I love
Yes.
his journey.
I put, I gave him talked a little bit of dad nerd shit about Wes Craven and about Elm Street and whatnot. Um,
Of
he picked
course.
up on a few of the Elm Street jokes in it. I said, you could probably
Nice.
handle Elm Street now. He went, well, I can only just handle this, dad, to be fair. So it was
Oh,
right on. Yeah.
how cute is he?
He's just,
I never would have said that. It would have been like, yes, I am very much not afraid of anything and
yeah.
I am loving this.
Just
It
handle this,
would
dad,
have
to be
straight
fair.
up lied.
He's just the purest, most
Love
wonderful
that.
expression of everything, wholesome.
Well, and just like also like, you gotta give the emotional intelligence
Yes.
props too, because that's the thing is most of us would have ignored the fact that like, yeah, that's gonna give us
Uh-huh.
nightmares and things
Uh-huh.
like that, and just powered through. And he's like, I don't think I want that experience. I'll wait.
Communicating, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Communication always on point. Great.
Yep.
Um, but what I'm saying is I was undeterred and went back for Deadpool today.
Beautiful.
I
What'd you
wasn't going to
think?
be deterred. Well, it was a great laugh, wasn't it? Great
Yeah.
fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, I I don't think Pete missed out on anything having been turned away. I mean, I'll have no qualms about letting him see it as soon as it's streamable.
Sure.
But I think it was probably more aimed at me than it was him.
Yeah, I mean, bringing back, I don't want to like spoil anything, but
Well,
there are
yeah.
things that are brought back in this, callbacks, things like that, that are gonna be
obviously.
more interesting to you if you are a elder millennial or Gen Xer
Yeah, Pete
than
hasn't
if you
seen.
were a
I
child.
don't think Pete would have seen a single property that they're referencing.
Right. Yeah,
They went
exactly.
in heavily on a few properties that
Yeah, he would not get any of the
any
like
frame of
why
reference
these things
for
are
at all.
funny. Yeah.
Yes. However, yeah, I was like, chortling away. It's a very
Hmm.
funny film in and of itself.
Yeah.
Um, you're gonna get from it exactly what you want from it.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be going to see it. You know exactly what it is, and it's that.
Right. Yeah.
But I think, yeah, it's not for a 15-year-old. I don't think. Just why would they give a shit
Yeah, that's the
about
thing
things
is
their dad has seen?
right, yeah, exactly. It's like unless they're like really well versed on
Yeah,
all of the both MCU and Sony
Fox, Sonyverse.
Fox. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
but it's
They're
things
not
my
gonna
dad
be
has
that
seen the
interested.
movie.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's what's fun about Deadpool, Deadpool and Wolverine is that like the meta stuff is built into the comics, right? It's not just the like the one of the problems with the MCU in general is kind of being too aware, and that can get kind of that can wear on you after a while that it feels like these
Mm.
people know they're in a movie and they're always quipping and all these kinds of things. You're like, okay, let's tone that back a little. But Deadpool, fucking go for it. So it's totally fine that there's like a ton of fan service, that it's winking at us, all of these kinds of things, because it comes from a property that does that when you're reading it too.
Yeah,
And it's what you go for. You don't go into Deadpool and be like, oh man, they pulled out a stupid thing from like an old property that was just to please the
yeah,
fans. Like, yeah, of course
full
they
of
did.
just uh, when I say it's everything you want it to be, that I mean that as a compliment. It's a feast. Every frame is packed full of shit
Yeah.
to
Yeah, it's so
consume
fun.
and move on from. There's an absolute hell of a lot going on.
Yeah.
Um, I know we're not spoiling, but I have to say Welsh Pool, and don't say you didn't notice it.
Yes. Oh, well, of course I noticed it. I
Fantastic.
was
Just
like,
given pride of place, just given
yeah,
absolute such spotlight.
yeah.
Lots of screen time, just a Welsh Deadpool variant. Really
And
cool.
for those of you who are welcome to Wrexham fans, when Welsh, you won't know this in the movie. This isn't a spoiler because you literally, there's no way of you knowing this. Welsh Pool is Paul Mullen from Wrexham, the football club,
Okay.
who is like the superstar, amazing dude, who just, yeah, best.
Love that.
Everyone loves Paul Mullen. So it was very cool when the credits rolled and I saw Welsh Pool Paul Mullen. I was like, oh my
Did they
God.
call him Welsh Pool
Oh.
in the credits? Yeah.
Yeah, they do call him Welsh Pool.
Yay.
It's
Love
the
that.
obvious name. He's
Yes,
Welsh
yes,
Pool.
yes.
um, so yeah, lots of fun with that movie. I do want to revisit one other thing that we talked about that got lost last week, only because of like a funny little thing that we noticed about this. I went and saw Maxine last week. Um, and
Okay.
you did not like Maxine. I watched both Maxine and Longlegs last week, and your prediction had been that you had liked Longlegs and not liked Maxine. You
Yes.
thought I would reverse that. I did
Yes.
not reverse that. I also liked Longlegs and didn't like Maxine, although I was vibing with it for a time until it kind of imploded on itself. But the thing that we discovered last week that I think is very funny is that basically you did not understand the movie
Well,
because you remembered nothing. You did not
okay,
realize she was
okay.
the character from X.
Yeah, it was after seeing I'll admit it was after seeing Maxine. It was after leaving Maxine that my brain finally, my synapses connected in the right way, and I was able to visualize its place as a trilogy. I went through all of Maxine, not really knowing what this girl's deal was.
Yeah. And we did
Um,
talk about it. Like I was like, yeah, that's this.
yeah,
And
okay.
you were like, oh, okay. Yup,
Yeah,
that
and
helps.
I'm certain upon a second viewing with all of these pieces now finally in
Yeah.
place.
It might
In
change
many ways,
things a
it's
little.
yeah, the puzzle of the movie kind of worked on me over time, and now I'm able to kind of put it together. Uh, I'm sure I'll have a little more
Yeah.
fun with it second time
Yeah,
around. But
I
my
feel like
fundamental
that'll
problems with the
probably
film,
improve it.
there's some things I'll stand by. I think I don't think it does work very well in and of itself.
No, it
Gets
doesn't.
extra points for mentioning Psycho 2. I don't know if that was salvaged
Yep.
last week.
No.
Psycho 2, if you haven't seen Psycho 2,
Mm,
sort that out for yourself. Give yourself a little treat.
yes.
Easily the equal, if not better than the original. a
And I
wonderful
hear
sequel in
great
its own
things
right.
about the third one. I forgot
Mm.
you and I have to watch that as well. Watch Psycho 3
We're gonna do
because
that
I
this
keep
week. Yes,
hearing,
yes,
yes,
yes, yes, yes,
that's this week's
please.
watch is Psycho 3 because I keep hearing how great that one
Beautiful.
is too. But
Directed by
yeah,
Anthony Perkins, I think.
yes, exactly. So that should be a fun time. But yeah, Maxine, I think, the vibes were good. I was really enjoying it. But I think it kind of ultimately got very dumb and
Mm.
sort of I think
But you did like
it
Long Legs, which is
yeah.
balm to my soul.
Yes, I did like Long Legs a lot. I had a great time
Good.
with that one. And that's one, again, I don't want to spoil anything about it because people haven't gotten to it. I know people have kids and other reasons that they don't go to see flicks right away. And I think it benefits so much from
It
you
does.
not knowing anything going into it. So we will not spoil it, but say I really enjoyed Long Legs.
It's something I think I've become very good at. I'm quietly proud of how good I've become at shielding myself from the
Yeah, from
details
knowing
of
what's
movies
yeah.
I intend to see. My filter, I've got my own personal kind of biofilter set up just perfectly that I don't let in
hmm
info that I don't want to know about movies. So go me.
Yeah, I think I often benefit from two things. One, when I go to the movies, usually I look at my phone during the trailers instead of watching them.
Mm.
And two, that I don't process visual information very well. And so I
Speak no
often have
evil,
no
yeah.
idea what the movie is about.
Speak no evil. That Danish, I think
hmm
it was Danish horror that's getting a Bloomhouse remake soon.
hmm
They're not going to keep the same ending, right? They
They have
can't.
to. They have to. Come on. That's like the one thing about that movie is how it ends. But they give away
Mm.
that I will say, like, so I talked about it on the show. I hate the original and not because it's too brutal or whatever. I just think it's dumb and annoying. But the remake
I
of
think I
it,
loved it.
I don't remember if you loved it. I don't feel like you loved it.
I seem to remember really liking it. I seem to remember loving the ending.
Yeah, I mean the ending's fine or whatever. I mean, I was fine with the ending because I hated those people so much. I was like, fuck them up,
Okay.
man. Do it. Like, that's not my problem with it. This is just the most annoying movie I have ever seen. Um, and this one, they like give away huge plot points in the
Yeah, it's all
trailer.
right there, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, like the kid with the cut off tongue and stuff like that. Like
Which they show
that's a
three on
late
three
movie.
separate shots, three separate occasions.
Right.
They
Did
really
you
spell that one
miss
out
it
for you.
before? Here it is
Cut
again.
tongue kid, the
Here's
movie.
him acting
Cut.
out cutting off
Clink.
the tongue in
Tongue.
case you
Clink.
missed that he
Kid.
doesn't have the tongue.
Clink.
And like even just that like the way that the parents get so crazy and stuff like that over the course of the movie, like part of watching that movie is the unraveling, right? Like so if you
Mm.
already know where it's going, I can only imagine it's even more annoying than the process of watching it not knowing. Like, okay, so we know what's going to happen here. Why are these people still staying in this stupid house?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll probably still watch it because I love that cast so much, though, and then I'm gonna be really mad at myself for watching it. But if you're gonna put James McAvoy and Scoot McNairy in something and think I'm not gonna watch it, get real. Get
Scoot.
real. Scoot loves me some Scoot.
I
I
can
want.
take or leave it.
Yeah, right. I watched a weird Welsh movie this week. Um, it's called The Passing in English. And it's a Welsh language movie.
Hmm.
Of course, starring Mark Lewis Jones because all Welsh things star Mark Lewis Jones. But it's a very slow burn movie, and I thought it was horror. It's not a horror movie. It's more of a drama. What is this? Oh, you're gonna sneeze.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry. Yo,
I
there's been
apologize if I
plenty of
forget to
that
take that
going on
out of
today.
this.
Let me tell you. We went for a
Uh,
walk around a National Trust property earlier on, and the pollen is relentless and
it's the
remorseless
worst.
this year, man. Fucking hell. Sorry,
Yeah.
you were saying weird Welsh movie. I don't
Weird
think I
Welsh
talked
movie.
about the feast on here. Did I? Did I talk about the
You didn't
feast?
talk about the feast. No. Let me talk about mine and then you can talk
Yeah,
about
go
the
ahead. Go
feast.
ahead.
Both Welsh language movies.
Mm,
And The Passing is this story in which we open basically on this couple who have gotten into a car accident in like a river And so, the woman has been like knocked out. The man's trying to find help or figure out how to get them out of there, things like that. And meanwhile, this kind of weird middle-aged guy wanders up, very quiet dude, Mark Lewis Jones, who brings them into his house and starts
Yeah.
trying to sort of nurse them back to health and whatnot. But there is certainly something in this couple's past that they are running from and trying to keep out of the sight of people. And they, over the course of this movie, sort of start talking like somehow they are going to take over this man's house, and live there and live happily ever after. But you're like, what are you going to do about the guy who lives here? There are two twists in this movie. um
Is it recent?
uh it is 2015, I think.
Oh,
So like a 9, 10 years old, somewhere in that vicinity. There's two twists in the movie, one of which you could ostensibly see coming. The other one, nope.
uh,
Really threw me for a loop. That this was where the movie was going, and I will say bold, freaking bold choice. Um, yeah, I'm not sure whether I recommend the passing or not. It's interesting. It's pretty. It's
okay.
well shot, well acted. And watching it, I just kept like repeating every line out loud afterwards to practice my Welsh, which was very
Of
fun.
course. Good, 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 cute.
But yeah, weird movie.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're interested in a pretty slow burn with a twist that's going to really squeak you out, this is the movie for you.
Let me see. Do I got anything else? No, I don't.
Okay. The only other things I have is with Scream and Chat the other night, we watched a movie called Monster Mash, which sounds like it would be a really good time.
Huh.
Loopy craziness starring Michael Madsen. It
Nice.
is not a loopy good time. It is just all talking the whole movie, just like all the Universal monsters gathered together, just talking with no real action throughout
Oh, but
this
it is
movie.
about the Universal monsters. It is about
Yes,
Wolfman
it's like
and the
Dracula
lads.
and yeah, all that kind of stuff,
Just
Frankenstein
chatting,
and
just having a fucking,
just
just catching up,
talking. There's
shooting the
like
shit.
the problem is like there's like it's plot, like there's a deep plot going on here, but it's all talked out. You never
Mm.
like it's not moved along by any form of action. So like trying to follow the plot means you have to like pay attention to just long conversations. Um yeah, there's very little mashing to speak of in Monster Mash.
Too
Uh
much monster,
yeah,
not
it
enough
definitely feels
mash.
like it's I think Colin was like, oh God, he had a really good name for it. Something that's like alimony movies or things like that, but basically, the kind of movie
Like
that
12
someone is
Angry Monsters.
clearly it's clearly someone trying to like Michael Madsen is trying to pay off some bills or whatever. And so he's like, yeah, I'll just like sit here in your movie. Why not? He sits down for pretty much the entire movie. I was like, is this like a Bruce Willis situation? In
Nice.
real life, is he like sick? Or did they just not pay him enough to stand up? Is that what's
Ah,
happening here?
nice. Minimum
So
effort.
minimum effort film. Uh, but on a maximum effort note, I also watched Starship Troopers last night, which is
Good choice.
always fun. My thing with Starship Troopers is it's like 20 minutes too long. There's always like a point in it where I'm
Yeah,
like,
and
okay,
you can lose a lot, I think, from the first third. Let's get straight to
mm-hmm.
Clendathu. Let's get straight to the fucking mayhem.
Right. Sure.
Um,
I mean, obviously that's where a lot of the fun satire comes from, though, is that like the openings of it with the very over the top militarism and nationalism and all of that kind of stuff. And, very fun Denise Richards, just she's at her
yes.
peak when she is playing someone really vapid.
Yeah.
And she's so much fun in this, and you get all that. But there gets to be a point where it's
I
like,
find I get the
this is
joke
going
quickly in the
yeah,
first third,
right,
and
yeah.
it goes on. Yeah.
Yeah, after a while you're kind of like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
no, okay, I get what we're doing here, we're good. But that said, it's still such a fun movie with like just incredible effects in it. I mean, that is a goopy movie.
Listen, it's been a while, but the bugs hold up,
Yeah, they really do. Yep,
you know?
and just, the ways in which they kill people, severing
Oh God,
people in
yeah, and you got
half
Michael
and things
Ironside being
like that.
amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got the secret fucking agency of Nazi fucking mind bug research.
Right.
Ah, it's a
Yeah, there's
sick
a
film, man.
lot to like. I
Really great
mean,
movie.
you know, uh, what's it, Neil Patrick Harris in that
Yeah, 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 yeah.
moment between when he was like still kind of Doogie Howser, he hadn't like turned into like a little sort of
Yeah,
heartthrob.
Goering.
Yeah, so he's like very, very fun to watch in it. It's just Starship Troopers.
A lot of
Listen,
fun.
you can do a lot worse. It's a good time.
Hmm. Very nice. I think that's it for me.
Yeah, I think that's everything. Now, you said you had a question you wanted to close with.
So, right, yes, I do. And I turn to you as my kind of you're excellent at relaying concepts to me in ways that I understand,
Mm,
right?
okay.
You're somebody I find exceptionally well informed. You're an excellent cultural barometer, and you know we've spoken daily now for years, right?
Yes.
Long may that continue. So in that spirit, I come to you to ask, what is Project 25, please? Lay it out for me.
I mean, it's like I guess it's a document in which sort of the architects of Trump's
Written by who? A
campaign,
document by who?
so various political assholes who are involved in the Trump campaign. There's lots of
Okay.
them. Like from what I understand, we're talking about like dozens of
Yes.
figures who have their hands on this
Okay.
thing, and it's basically their like plan for what they want to accomplish once Trump is president. And of course, it's just fascism, basically. Uh, there's lots of details and things like that that you can find everywhere, but when it comes down to it, it's just very much like abolishing choice and like weird things. Like I think in there you've got like stuff about divorce, making it harder on women to divorce, and like all kinds of crazy
Mm.
fascist bullshit that they want to accomplish once they get Trump into office. Most of which is
So,
like so deeply illegal that like the idea that no one would push back against it is like deeply
okay.
insane. I think a lot of people really, and I don't want to like minimize people's fears because obviously a Trump presidency is like awful and terrible and all these kinds of things. But the one thing that like you can say like when Trump was in office compared to Biden and things like that is that people really kind of like circled the wagons and were like,
Yes.
we have to stop things from
Yes.
happening. And a lot of people I think that like he's just going to immediately like call in the National Guard and hold us all at gunpoint and throw everybody in camps, and no one will have any way to fight back against anything. And I find that, highly unlikely. It's going to be very difficult for them to implement a whole bunch of like
Well,
just deeply unconstitutional shit.
yes, which is in line with my understanding of what it was anyway. That's kind of what I thought it was. It's almost
Yeah.
like a manifesto of
Right.
no,
Yeah,
well, not even a
exactly.
manifesto, nothing so detailed.
I mean,
But
I think it's pretty detailed. I think this thing is
oh,
like
really?
over 1,000 pages. Like, I think there's a lot to this.
But a
It's
lot spurious, butting up against the law, possibly not legal,
right.
wide-reaching, not really realistic. I would ask, my question is, right,
Mhm.
you're running for office, you're on the ticket, you're
Uh,
campaigning. What's yours? What's your
my project
equally ridiculous,
25.
but maybe flipped on its head more positive Project 25? What do you
Yeah, it's just like
just
the full
spew out there
abolition of
as yes?
capitalism. That's
Okay.
my project 2025. We're going pie in the sky things the Constitution would never allow to happen, but I think should. Down with capitalism.
Any
Police are
more kind of
disbanded
idiosyncratic
everywhere.
detail?
Idiosyncratic detail. It's a good question. I haven't really thought about. I haven't given a lot of if I ruled the world thoughts because it's just,
Hmm.
not in my wheelhouse, I guess.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
good, good.
Yeah.
You're far more nuanced. You're
What would you do if you ruled Britain? What's your move?
Jesus. I think I would have to start small, right? I think there are certain things you
Mm,
could do which would be easy to implement, but would have an instant and quantifiable benefit to the well-being of the public at large, the mental and physical well-being of the public at large. that things on the level of disabling right out of the box, automatically disabling the external speaker for music on a phone,
Ooh, love that. Yep, into
right?
it. Mm-hmm.
Maybe when it detects that you're in public. You can
Yeah.
use it in your
Mm-hmm.
home, but you can't use it
Yeah.
in public to like stop the
Yeah, it's like
fucking
a good like how, you can't like in China you can't have your
the
phone
camera
shutter
sound.
sound turned off,
Yes.
right? Like sometimes
Yes.
for the public good, you
Yes.
gotta,
It's like that. You
hmm
can't be using that shit in public, you absolute dweeb.
like that. Yep.
Stuff on that kind of level.
Mm.
When you're opening a pack of bacon or cheese, you that little tab, the little peel up little corner of the pack would be far more accessible, far easier,
Yeah, what is
far
with
more
that?
efficient. It would just work. I would be aiming at that level.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff which generally it annoys you. It causes a little kind of tick on the needle on the kind of
Uh-huh.
Geiger counter of annoyance for your day, but it's still background annoyance. And I think if we tackle a lot of that level of
Yeah,
stuff,
and you've made everyone's
the
lives better by
net
tackling the
effect,
annoyances. Mm-hmm.
exactly. We start off with incremental gains, outliers, just little bits
Yep.
like that we can just square away. And I think that would be a great place to start.
Yep. Then you've got everybody's trust because look at it. Look at what he's fixed for us.
Exactly.
And then bam.
Exactly.
Full
Exactly. And
abolition
that's
of
when,
capitalism.
yes, that's when we start limiting birth rates,
Okay, no
limiting
eugenics, Mark. No eugenics in your
healthcare past a
utopia.
certain age or for certain conditions. That's gone. Forget that. Bye. And then within a
Uh,
couple of generations, we've reduced the population. Uh, that's when the
and it
real
will
fun
have made
begins.
no difference to the world because the
That's when
consumption will be
phase two
exactly the
begins.
same. Oh, my dear eco-fascist friend. And all of you listening at home, we
That's all
are
of you. All of you.
so happy that you're here for this ride.
Mm.
Anything that we have to ask of them, anything that we want to well, I guess the question is what's in your manifesto? What's your
Well,
project 2025, of course.
oh, do think about it as you're going about your life this week,
Yeah.
please. What
Please
would
tell
you
us what's your
fucking,
thing? Do you go big like me or do you
yeah,
incremental annoyances like Mark? Do you have a whole other plan? Do we just go to the moon? What is your manifesto?
I'd like to know it. But if you're coming to New York, and it seems like a lot of you are,
Hmm.
do please check out the Discord, check out Corey's
Yes,
info
please.
packet because it's fucking what a document. Ugh. Put together with love, and
It is
can't wait
so
to see you
much
all
love.
there. And stay spooky in the meantime, please. Mwah.
Mwah.